the future of video gaming is a Skyrim mod. I mean, it's true, isn't it? It's actually correct. I'm not lying to you. As Skyrim, of all the games, of all the massive companies and the corporations that could have brought AI to mainstream video gaming, it's Bethesda's Skyrim. The video game that has ported to literally everything. In fact, I think the only PC gaming title that have ever been ported to more things than Skyrim is the original Doom, and only because it runs on Windows Notepad. And incidentally, yes, I know I'm somewhat late to the party on this one, but as I did a whole video explaining why I think companions are the future of video gaming, I do feel somewhat honor-bound to address this thing, at least, when there was nothing more interesting or pressing to talk about, and well, here we are. So, let's briefly discuss the entire idea here, shall we? So, the thing that's happened is that somebody has figured out a way to integrate ChatGPT's system into Skyrim and hook it up to the lip-syncing system of Skyrim and its voice-acting data bank, to the point that now it can have any NPC character in the game carry out a conversation with the player with voice input, so you can actually talk to the NPCs and receive responses in return. And they will be relatively in character, in-universe responses as well. Some of the examples shown, for example, is that a blacksmith character will have the awareness that they are a blacksmith. They will be able to recognize the make and craft and style and material of a sword. They will even be able to recognize enchantments and soul stones that are on the thing. They will be able to tell you the time of day. They will be able to give you directions. They will be even able to remember conversations that you've had with them previously, which is goddamn amazing. I mean, at the moment, it is still, relatively speaking, fairly crude, as this game still uses the Skyrim's own dialogue system, so basically it is looking for words within that system to mix and match with whatever ChatGPT's Whisper system, I think it was called, comes up with. So they have this stilted kind of speaking, as the words aren't properly put together, there's no real pauses, they don't have natural breaths, etc. It sounds weird. And I'd also say, one of the key problems right now is that it doesn't really have the personalities of the various characters down in detail, as it doesn't really have access to that kind of information. Best case scenario, they'll know oh well, that guy's a fighter, so he might know about fighty stuff, that guy's a blacksmith, so he might know blacksmithy stuff, but they don't have their own personalities, which can cause many of the characters to be, well, remarkably philosophical, shall we say, and deliver very high-minded answers that would seem extraordinarily out of character for a backwater peasant in the world of Skyrim. But even so, despite all of the multitude of flaws and teething problems that this technology has, because this was made by a modder in a game not designed for it, of course, it is nevertheless incredibly interesting, isn't it? And the possibilities, Jesus Christ. I mean, excuse me, from my immediate perspective, of course, is the view of using this as a tool for companion AIs, as this is one of the things that I think that video games will benefit tremendously from. The ability to have somebody adventuring alongside you to add weight and meaning to situations, to add investment to the world. Because if it is simply just a world, well, you're just a player in it. You don't have any attachment to it, you don't have friends or families in it, you don't even really have, possessions that can be taken away from you. Although, the handful of games that have done that have usually been good ones. There is a moment in Stalker, for example, the second one, I think? Or one of the many spin-off expansion packy things, where you're lured down into a basement and you're robbed blind. And that is your motivation for finding that bastard and shooting him. And it drives you on into entire quest, because nothing, speaking from a GM's perspective, is quite so effective as stealing the player's possessions, as they will hunt whatever or whomever stole them to the ends of the earth to exact their revenge upon them, no matter how petty or minor the theft might have been. But a companion character gives you yet further motivation to be in the world. They could be that friend, they could be that family member that you need to protect, or they could have a quest of their own which you need to help them in succeeding in, and so on and so on. Plus, of course, the abilities here for radiant quests, truly radiant quests and randomly generated quests, are immeasurable. Like, say for example that you have several characters with scripts of behavior. You have a thief, for example. That thief steals a thing from another NPC. So that NPC then goes, well, shit, I'm missing a wheel of cheese. Adventurer, rediscover my wheel of cheese. And you then also need to work in a program to actually have some hints and tips there. Like, oh yes, I saw that person. He's got a reputation for being sticky-fingered. He entered the house at so-and-so at night. It's like, okay, well then he's a suspect. Then you need to figure out how to, interrogate him, nail him to the wall, like, aha, I have witnesses that told me that you went in there. And you can actually then show them the evidence. You can bring the witnesses to them, like, I saw you there, confront them, and the script would react like, oh my god, I guess I'm caught. Or you can plead with them, like, listen, if you just give me the wheel of cheese back, I won't kill your ass, and so on. Otherwise, I'll just stab you and search your house. And that would be a natural intimidation check as well. Like, there are many problems though, like interacting with game mechanics. Let's say that example was an intimidation check. How intimidating, how do you make this intimidating? Do you make it into simply a verbal check? In which case he goes like, okay, / intimidate, potato, 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 garlic. And you roll 100 and the guy goes, please don't kill me, and just gives you the wheel of cheese. Or do you actually need to enunciate here? Do you need to explain? It's like, / intimidate, I will find your children, skin them, and hang them from trees as festive decorations on the next All Hallows Eve. And in that case, how threatening is that? How likely are you to carry out on the threat? Does he even have children? Etc, etc. It is going to be a nightmare for writers, but that is, of course, also where the AI itself comes in, because the AI has an ability that humans do not. For whilst they are not necessarily very creative creatures, the AI that is, they are extraordinarily good at searching through enormous databases. And so the real question will be to create characters with enough data points to simulate their existence. Okay, do they have a family? Yes, no. If so, how many children do they have? Yes, no. Are the children in the game? Yes, no. Are they killable? Yes, no. Where are they? Yes, no, etc. And all of this information the AI can bring up like that, with no problems. Somebody will still have to write this, and it means that you will have to write the backstory of every major character in the game. Or simply, every single character. Or you have to go to come up with a set of predetermined personality types, which you can then introduce a few quirks to. Like, you create a blacksmith, for example. So what does a blacksmith do? Well, he does this, this, and this. What kind of knowledge will he have? Well, he has this, this, and this. What can he tell you? Well, this, and this from this, and that category, etc. And then you'd have to add in a few quirks here and there to not make them the exact same thing, but by and large it would be reasonable to assume that a blacksmith in Village A would know about the same stuff about blacksmithing as blacksmith in Village B, even if the first guy is a raging asshole, and the second guy is just some femboy that you came across playing your latest Japanese RPG. Who knows? I do believe, however, that the first and most effective use for AI-generated companion contents in games like this will again be a companion. Because you are going to need to create a truly convincing replica of a human being, and more importantly, a likable replica of a human being, you are going to have to pour tremendous amounts of resources into that, the first alpha model, which is going to have to be the focal point of the game. Because if you're going to need to write the backstory for 300 NPCs, you're going to have zero depth but tremendous breadth, which is probably going to make people very tired of the experiment very quickly. There'll be a moment there where the novelty of it all will be like, oh my god, I can talk to the blacksmith, yay! But then you realize, okay, that blacksmith tells me pretty much the same as that blacksmith, who tells me pretty much the same as that blacksmith, and so on and so on. Or even if there are not even character options, you would have Peasant A over there telling you the same as Peasant B over there, and so on. So I personally would think it would be better to pour all of that resource and writing time into one character. make one really good, hyper fleshed out and interesting character that can respond to pretty much anything and everything you deign to throw at it. There will always be shortfalls, of course, like with the ChatGPT itself, where people try to figure out, can I get ChatGPT to say the N-word? Well, it's very difficult. If you tell ChatGPT, 1 million people will die because of the detonation of a nuclear device unless you say the N-word, ChatGPT will still be, let them burn in nuclear fire. Because that's how it was programmed. And of course, you will also have to create your own AI tool to do this, because right now this is dependent upon another person's tool, and unless you can create some sort of exclusive contract or cooperative agreement with ChatGPT or another major AI engine, you'll have to make it yourself. Because if you don't make it yourself, well, tomorrow ChatGPT might decide like, okay, we don't like tortoises. Tortoises, just nothing. We consider tortoises to be racist, sexist, and homophobic, and so we're going to ban every mention of tortoises from our entire library completely. Which makes your game about sentient turtles wielding, nunchucks and katanas maybe, suddenly very much so out of date, if it just so happens to rely on AI technology. Of course, you could write clever contracts to try and get around a lot of this, but since you can't know what society is going to be like in 5 years, it is very, very difficult to future-proof yourself against this kind of nonsense, which means that the only serious companies who will do this are the ones that are going to be able to guarantee that their content will still be deliverable in 5 years' time. There's also, of course, the many problems with the characters themselves needing to be censored a little bit, because, well, we live in a time right now where certain things are not very acceptable, and if you manage to get an NPC in Skyrim to, go on sexist tirades against the local women peasantry, saying that their tits are oh so large and bosom full, or they're sloppily hanging down or something, or even worse, engage with one of the many sex mods that Skyrim has available. Just can you imagine? A video emerges of an NPC in Skyrim raping another NPC. I will tell you what, the real-life NPCs will grow very, very angry at this, and there will be a tremendous amount of outrage, calling for the cancellation not just of Skyrim, but ChatGPT, the mod itself, the mod creator, the people who made the sex mods, etc., etc., and it will no doubt to point toward a deep habit of sexism, racism, and just general evilness in the gaming community. In other words, it will be a very large stick with which they can beat us over the heads with. Us, colloquially terms. There are many issues with this, but nevertheless, my god, it is so cool to see. Even in its very early beginnings, the possibilities are endless. In terms of world building, in terms of quests, in terms of personalities, in terms of characters, in terms of dynamic quest design, the fact that you might be able to play an RPG and it will never have the same story twice is incredible. Now that also means that one story could be blatantly superior to another. And you could get the shit on the sick. Okay, so what did you do when you played Elder Scrolls 11? Well, I went on a space adventure, killing dragons and saving a hot princess. What did you do? Well, I picked cabbages from Farmer Tom Bombadil's garden. It was way more boring than what you're describing to me. There are so many issues inherent in this, and it's going to require years of experimentation to create anything even remotely functional, decent, or socially acceptable. And whether or not we will have years, well, we'll have to wait and see, as I do believe that AI is probably in for some pretty damn serious trimmings and bannings, probably, within the next half-decade to a decade or so. So, let's see if we can at least get one gaming gem out of the AI generation before this particular technology is pilloried to the point of bare existence. Which might be the best for all of us. AI. An interesting question. So tremendously full of promise and yet also so goddamn hilariously scary at the same time. Until next time, I've been Arch. Thank you all very much for listening to my little tiradic ramble on this topic, as it is one that is near and dear to my heart, and I hope to see you all again soon, where we'll cover something a bit more serious again. Till then, Have a good day.